What if I told you you could own a piece of prime New York real estate for just $10? No, it's not a scam. In today's video, I introduce you to the future of property ownership. Two technologies are battling to unlock a whole new world of possibilities for both investors and real estate professionals. So if you are curious about the future of investing or a real estate professional wanting to know more, this video is for you. So welcome to today's session. Today is day 96 of our 100-day series. We're getting to the end, and thank you for watching today's video. Now we're going to talk about the future of real estate ownership and transactions from a particular standpoint of blockchain, fractional ownership, and we'll talk about other trends that we're seeing coming down the road. Now, blockchain and fractional ownership, you'd see how they connect when it comes to real estate, but don't be turned off by blockchain, because blockchain has multiple aspects to it. There's a cryptocurrency side of things, which is what's made blockchain very popular. But this session is not really about cryptocurrency. It's about the technology beneath the cryptocurrency, the security, the multiple copies of every transaction, and the transparency that blockchain presents. That's where real estate is going to benefit from this new way of operating. So the traditional method of purchasing property or owning property involved very few people who had huge amounts of deposit or had huge amounts of leverage in order to acquire a real estate asset. Now, those types of transactions tended to be really complicated, paper-driven, many people involved in it, the lawyers and the realtors and all other parties and valuers and stuff. And there were just too many areas through which those friction was introduced, the costs were increased, and all these people just acted doing their roles. But with new technology coming along, you'd see that these aspects were actually frictional and can be replaced. But let's see. And as a result, the barriers to entry were quite high, because every party that's involved in any transaction has to be paid. And the person who pays that is the purchaser often, and sometimes the seller. Now, technology comes along and we see blockchain. Blockchain has been in the wild for many years now, and it's really proven to be transparent, to record all transactions, and can be a substitute to many aspects of the real estate transaction stages. And the other aspect that blockchain introduces is fractional ownership. And this is something we'll look at a bit more in this session. Now, these technologies, they offer greater security and transparency. And the reason the transparency is there is because every transaction is recorded on the blockchain, and everyone has access to that blockchain if it's a public blockchain network. If it's private, then anyone who's connected to that private blockchain network also has access. But the key thing is it introduces efficiency in the ownership, because everybody knows who owns what, and everybody can see when a transaction completes and when the ownership is transferred from one party to the next. So you don't have to go around looking for documents that were created hundreds of years ago to validate the ownership of any aspect of a property, provided the initial entry on the blockchain is correct. So what is blockchain? Imagine blockchain like a really big spreadsheet with rows and columns, and all the columns show the different aspects of a particular transaction, and every row is a complete transaction. So that spreadsheet is massive. It contains everything pertaining to any transaction on the blockchain, and the key thing is multiple parties have copies of that transaction, and before anything can be changed on that spreadsheet, all of the parties, or a significant number of those parties, must validate that that transaction is correct. And because multiple parties have copies, no one can go in and change one copy without others being involved or without others validating the transaction. So you cannot easily replace a transaction, change a transaction after the fact. So once it's gone in, it is transparent, everyone can see it, and it stays. And everything's recorded in chronological order. You can't go in and replace a transaction that was put in days after other subsequent transactions have come in. And in fact, you cannot replace a transaction without all of the copies agreeing that this new transaction can go on. And because it's impossible almost to make any of those changes, that's where the security comes in. So if you have 10,000 copies of this spreadsheet, and often there are millions of copies of these spreadsheets, and each one has to validate whatever transaction you're trying to make and confirm that is genuine and legitimate, that's where the security comes in, is security by numbers. So blockchain in real estate comes from people agreeing to put their properties within the blockchain network and put in the title within the blockchain network. And for properties that are able to do this, yes, initially it's new and people are trying to get to understand the system. But by now it's been 2 or 3 years where some of these platforms have introduced properties onto their blockchain and people are transacting on that basis. And the key thing is, it's very secure. The records are transparent. Everyone can see who owns what, and the risk of fraud and errors is significantly reduced. Equally, significantly, transactions on the blockchain are significantly faster. And the reason for that is everybody can see what's on there. You can see what you're purchasing. And the moment you complete your purchase or submit the purchase, the transaction switches within seconds. So everybody, you can, at 9 o'clock this morning, have an asset. Someone bids and purchases your asset. 5 seconds later, it's theirs. So it's no longer let's wait for two weeks, and then we send something off to land registry, and land registry tells us it's been recorded or not recorded, and some public government organization holds this record, but nobody sees it. But in this case, the whole world can see it because it's on the blockchain, and if it's a public blockchain, it's clear what's happened, and anyone can see the history. And the cost saving there is significant if you think about it. So once a property goes on there, the way I imagine it is, once a transaction goes on there, everybody sees the evidence. If it's correct, then it's correct forever. So all subsequent purchases are purchasing what's on that blockchain, and everyone can see it. So examples of blockchain applications include property title and deed management. So if you look up a company called Proppy, that's what they do. Then think about a smart contract. So these smart contracts are contracts that are predefined and codified. They're all in code, and the conditions are clear. Anyone who's entering that contract knows what they're entering into, they're getting into. There are no changes once all the conditions are agreed, and as soon as conditions are met, the contract's executed and locked in. And the final thing is the tokenization of real estate assets. So Realty has a solution for that and opens up their system for people to invest for as low as $10. So let's talk about fractional ownership. So fractional ownership is essentially where there's a whole pie, which is an entire property. And then if you can imagine a property being broken up into equal shares of that property. And as an example, let's say you have a property that's worth $250,000 and you decided to create 250,000 shares. That means people, in theory, can buy a share of that property for $1. So that's where the fractional ownership comes in. If 250,000 people purchase one share of that property, it means that 250,000 people paid $1 and 250,000 people have a share of that property. So it's fractional. For each person that owns a share, they own a fraction of that property. That's essentially what the fractional ownership is all about. So different investors can invest, but the key thing is, if there's a property worth £250,000 or $250,000, and you're able to get onto that property as a shareholder for just $1, imagine that opportunity. Because then, if there's a growth in price, an increase in value, you'd partake in it. Your dollar becomes $2 if it doubles within 10 years. Yes, it's not quite the heady speed of what you get with blockchain and crypto meme coins, but you have a physical asset and you have a share of that physical asset. So this opens the door to many new investors and people who are more cautious than you'd get with typical investments in cryptocurrencies. And fractional ownership and tokenization. Now, each one of those fractions that you own can then be turned into a digital token. And that token is what is tradable. So imagine you have a share of a company or a share of a property. That share can then be traded between different parties as tokens. So that's where the tokenization is. And that's the whole point of the blockchain, that you put something on the blockchain, convert it to tokens, and then those tokens are things that are traded. And if you, in the normal parlance, you'd say cryptocurrencies are tokens. So it's essentially the same thing. So a token in this regard is a share of the property. So a digital token represents a specific ownership of a stake in the property. So if you're one of 250,000 people that owns a property, you have one token and your stake is that one out of that 250,000 total. Tokens are easily tradable. They increase liquidity for investors because it's easy to go in and come out, sell and buy and trade. So what are the benefits of fractional ownership to investors? Well, for investors, if you have a fraction of a property, you don't have to then raise the entire deposit amount to partake in ownership of a property. You can invest whatever you have. As I said, Realty has a properties where you can invest just $10. There's no real physical asset that you can invest $10 in for a physical property. Well, I suppose there are areas where properties are being sold for £1, but that's not very common. But the other benefits are that you can get involved in property ownership whilst you're growing. It means you can diversify. If you have £10,000 to invest, you don't have to put all of that money into one property. You can put it across 10 different properties and hedge your bets. The accessibility to investing in properties is then open up to more members of the population, and liquidity is also easier because a lot more people can get in and go in and go out of any investment, and you don't have to find people with deep pockets to sell your property or sell your estate to. So the platforms that enable fractional ownership are Fundrise and Realty Mogul. So these are two popular ones that come up when you do searches. I'm sure there are others, but these two have been around for a while now. Not sure what their numbers are, but they are still going. Now, other trends that I'm seeing in terms of future growth are increases in prop tech companies. So prop tech has really taken off over the last 5 years. There are a lot more things being digitized and converted to software within the real estate space, and that's set to continue. So you've got things like virtual tours that weren't a thing for a while, and virtual staging, AI-powered property management tools, and smart properties. All these things are part of prop tech or the prop tech ecosystem. So that's growing. That's going to continue growing. You've got AI-powered valuations, and that's becoming more ubiquitous now. It's freely available on quite a few websites now. You've got Zillow, you've got Zoopla. They provide automated valuation models that you can query for valuations or values of properties in particular areas at specific times. And then you've got smart contracts. So these smart contracts tie into the blockchain contracts, and these smart contracts are self-executing. So as soon as conditions are met, the contract's executed, and that's it. So ownership can be transferred multiple times in a day, and it's all going to be based on algorithms and the conditions being met. So the future is now, and in order for you to get ahead of the curve, you do want to make sure you educate yourself as a real estate professional, see what's coming down the line, and see how people or organizations are trying to adapt to the new ways of doing things. So see if there's any property or any way you can get involved in the blockchain world, or get a property listed on a blockchain platform and see how it goes. Do some tests, and you never know, you might be the first to do it in your area, in your niche, and then you become the go-to guy or girl for blockchain related sales or blockchain related investments when it comes to real estate. So attend conferences and speak to other people and consider doing a pilot project. So in conclusion, the Future of real estate and transactions is undergoing a shift. There are organizations trying to move us in this direction of fractional ownership and blockchain. So let's see how that goes. But it doesn't seem to be a short-term thing, a fad. It seems to be here to stay. And I dare say, as the world of the cryptocurrencies continues growing on blockchain, this aspect as well would increase, because people wonder why things have to take so long for property, or why property cannot be fractionalized. And I think at a guess, I would say REITs were introduced for this very purpose, to make it open and easy for people to invest, go in and out, so liquidity. And there's no reason why blockchain cannot take that place. So the key takeaways from today would be that traditional way of ownership and traditional way of doing transactions in real estate has significant limitations, and technology can disrupt that whole model, speed things up, reduce costs, and make things more democratized for investors. And fractional ownership means that a lot more people can get involved and partake in the growth and increases in property values. And then you also want to keep an eye on the emerging trends and what's coming down the line. Get yourself involved with prop tech and AI technology, and make sure you're ready for what's new. So you can get involved or introduce us to your business. We can partner with you. We specialize in automation, the creation of chatbots to boost engagement, and anything AI within your real estate organization. So feel free to reach out to us on uwa@autoread.ai. So that's our email. Our website is autoread.ai. Send us a message there. We're also present on socials, so Instagram, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So do leave us a comment. I would love to hear what you think, and let us know what you think the future is likely to introduce on, or how you're preparing for the new way of doing things. Or do you think the traditional method is here to stay and would remain that way forever? So until next time, thank you for watching this video. This is day 96, and I would love to hear if you watched all 96 videos. Okay, well, keep us posted. So until next time, keep winning.